Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am proud to say that I have not done a book haul video in quite a while, but I did take part in the Amazon sale primarily, and then I did pick up a couple books from Target in my last few visits. So that's what today's video is. It's a book haul where honestly I did not go that insane, so I'm kind of proud of myself, trying to be smart about money. And I know that I buy books every month, so maybe don't overbuy when you know new releases are coming out and you're gonna want to buy them. Okay, that's just me ranting. Let's get started. So I have these two bags and then this box. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the books that I first got at Target. So first up is Stephen King's Billy Summers. I have not read any Stephen King books, but my grandma absolutely loved them, so I should definitely, if I like this book, go raid her book collection. Anyways, this book, Haley Pham and Destiny Sidwell talked about it and they loved it, or at least really enjoyed it, to the point that I was like, I feel like this could be a good starting point. I think that's what Haley Pham said. Like, she's always nervous to read Stephen King books because that's just not usually her thing. She thought it was like very dark, like horror, and I was like, yeah, I don't really know. But she talked about this book. I don't really know the big plots of this, but he's a killer. He wants out. He's doing one last job. Obviously, it's not going to go as planned. If it's good enough for my grandma, it's good enough for me. Next up is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I haven't read any Sarah Adams books, but I've heard this one quite a bit. It was popular a while back. Very, like, hit or miss for people. So, I don't know. I've heard, like, the good opinions I've heard of it makes me very excited about the book. And then I've heard other people be like, this book was so bad. So, I don't know, but it's pretty short. I feel like I'll get through it pretty quickly. It's following NFL. Okay. I didn't know, like, I saw, like, I knew football, but, like, I didn't know what age we were going for here, but it's an NFL guy. Oh, no. Oh, my God. It's following, like, a woman, her and her, like, longtime best friend is in the NFL. She's, like, totally in love with this guy, but I guess he doesn't love her back. But they're gonna work through that. I don't know. I don't want to read too much of the back, but that's like the premise of this. Moving on to the Amazon books. The first one I got is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is the book I've heard so many mixed things on, and like, this is the worst book of hers. But I'm like, okay, but even if it's the worst, like, would I still enjoy it? I don't know. I recently watched a vlog where someone read this and she really, really liked it. And I was like, that's good enough for me. I'll give it a shot. So I just figured, like, was this friends to lovers, like friends to strangers to lovers, 2 best friends, 10 summer trips, 1 last chance to fall in love. Aww. I don't want to read the back too much, but I'd rather go in more blind than not. I don't know. We'll see. Well, it's definitely a summer read, so I want to read this in July or August for sure. Next up is Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. B-L-A-U. You decide. This is a literary fiction, and I really, what is it, kind of historical fiction? 1970s does not make it historical, right? Anyways, it's following just like, I think she's like young, 14-year-old, yeah. And she's like nannying for a family, and it just gives off the summer vibes, and I like that it's a summer book that isn't going to be a romance book. I think I like having a mix in there because during this time, like, I'm not super intrigued to read a bunch of fantasy when it's just like the summer vibes are out. I want a book like this. So it looks pretty short. It looks good. I've heard good things about it. This will be right up my alley. Next up is Bunny by Mona Awad. Sorry, A-W-A-D. You also decide. This book, I've heard bizarre things about this book. Not really like fully the plot and like what goes on, and luckily like nothing's been spoiled for me, but I've just heard this book is absolutely nuts. And I think this is gonna be much crazier, but it's kind of reminding me of how I felt about A Year of Rest and Relaxation and Death in Her Hands by Otessa Moshfegh. I think that's how you say her name. That book was just like, both books were like nothing I've ever read, and they were just so bizarre, and I was like, oh, Tessa, like, queen, are you good? Or like, what did you have to do to write this book? Like, that's what I want to know. And I feel like I'm gonna have the same like bizarre feelings in this book. I've heard it's like put people in weird mental spaces, and I don't know why that intrigues me so much, so I definitely want to read this as soon as possible. Next up is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I would not have heard of this book without Haley Pham, but she described it best. She said, it's like Hunger Games in the sky, and that's enough to get you hooked. And I said, no, you're right, add to cart. So I don't really know like the full plot of this, and I don't want to. I want to go in blind, but this looks so good. I know she really, really loved it and went to buy the second book immediately. Next up is By a Thread by Lucy Score. This will also be my first Lucy Score book. I know in general they're very hit or miss, but I think Sarah Caroli is the one who read this and like really, really enjoyed it. And her and I feel like typically like and dislike the same books more often than not. So I figured this would be a good Lucy Score book to start off with. A grumpy boss romantic comedy. I'm excited. I have heard a little bit more about this book. So I think the premise is that like there's a woman that is working at a restaurant like as a waiter or something, and the guy in this book along with his mom are at that restaurant, whatever happens, and they get her fired on accident, and her mom I think feels bad and offers her a job to work at the fashion place that they run. I don't know if he's the CEO. No, he can't be, right? The mother's the CEO, but he's like high up in the company, and so he can't fire her because it's his mom that hired her. And so it's a grumpy, I don't know if it's really grumpy sunshine, but I know that she's like pretty much a boss. Like she is a very strong woman, I believe, in this book, like the main female character. So I'm excited to see what this is like. It's pretty thick. So okay, so next up is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. Now this book was popular quite a few months ago and I've wanted to read it for so long, but I just kept never wanting to actually pick it up or order it or whatever. But I'm doing this reading challenge in July, and one of the prompts for that challenge that week is a book set in fall. And when I looked it up, this book came up. I was like, what are books set in fall? Because I'm like, I don't know. How am I supposed to know that? This book came up. And so I don't really even know if it's set in the fall, but I'm going to read it for that video, and I'm very just excited to read this. It's very different, I feel like, than most tropes that would be like this, but she's the bodyguard for a, I don't know, you see like a Hollywood star type guy, like some famous person. Okay, that's too much to read. He doesn't want his parents to like get worried that he needs a bodyguard, so they pretend to date. So it's fake dating, and she's just like a badass, and I just think that's so cool. So I'm very excited to read this. The last up is Flawless by Elsie Silver. This book is around everywhere, right? It's a cowboy romance. Like, let's just be honest, that's all we need to know. I think that's all we know going into this. I'm here for it. I'd already buy all books, but I was like trying to slow down and I wanted to exceed the other books. But I have a feeling I'm gonna love this. I feel like anyone that I follow that's read it loves it. This series, turning them into a cowgirl, and I love that. That's so cool and fun. So I'm excited to just start this series. So I got the first book, Flawless, and then I think Heartless is the next one. I don't know, that's a later problem. We're starting with Flawless. Okay, that concludes the haul. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and like what your thoughts are, and also any recommendations you may have, especially for like the summer months. Like, what are the summer vibes? I feel like there's a few books on my radar, especially for like August, because again, this is really like pretty much a July TBR, but I know there's new releases coming out I'm really, really interested in, and just like other books that I've now found. I'm like, wow, that's such like a summery read. Now, being in California, I feel like my summery vibes last longer, so I'm kind of lucky to be able to go into like September, but I feel like once I get through September, for sure, I'm gonna be interested in like October, Halloween, fall, spooky season, you know? So definitely July, August, and September will be months I will be able to read summer books, so please let me know any suggestions you have. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.